Hey ladies, welcome to Queen TV. This is Esther Adriana Santos.
And I'm Dr. Arnessa Bennett. How are you doing?
We are so excited to have you on today's topic. You know, this is the month that we're celebrating love and friendship. Last segment, if you had a chance to catch us, we talked about friendships and mentorship, right? We talked about
Yes.
relationship and why it's important to have them and how we can keep these amazing friendships and mentors that come along the way. So today we're going to be talking about marriage. And not just marriage, but independent women and how we go through marriage being our independent selves, right? You know, we know we go into marriage and we don't want our spouses to change us, and we also can't be changing our spouses the way that we want, right? So
Right.
how do we survive this? Arnessa, like I know that you have an amazing marriage. You have just an amazing husband. And I know we get to talk about these things all the time behind the scenes. Share a little bit about your experience and maybe a little bit of, I know we want to catch up also the audience, what we've been doing in the background, the last 2 weeks. So just share a little bit about what's been going on with you and then your marriage portion.
Okay, well, before we get started, I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas, and right now it is 14 degrees with snow on the ground.
That is
So
crazy.
all of our Valentine's, this was Valentine's weekend, all of
Wow.
our Valentine plans got kicked to the curb
I'm gonna send
because
you
of,
some warmth here, folks in Florida. Let me send you some warm air. It's 88 degrees here.
bring it up. I mean, you probably haven't had to experience this, but probably when you move to Texas, because the Texas people are dealing with the same thing that we're dealing with.
Mm.
Gotta let your water drip, 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 so your pipes don't freeze. And you gotta make sure. Our neighbor last night, uh, my husband was outside doing something. I don't know if he was taking out the trash or what, but he said, call the neighbor next door because we kind of live up on on a little incline.
Mhm.
Their car had slid off their driveway into the
No.
street and they didn't know it.
Oh
So I
my
called her and she said her son was visiting. Now he parked the car and went into the house, and I guess after he got in the house, the car just slid down. So thank
God.
God no car came
Thank
and tried
God.
to turn the corner and run into his car. But I
Exactly.
mean, it's just been strange because normally we might get a little snow by the afternoon, it melts away, and we keep moving and grooving. But so I didn't go to work Thursday before Valentine's, but that Wednesday I got a beautiful bouquet of
Ooh.
pink roses. My husband
Oh
know
my
I'm a pink
goodness.
girl, so
Yes.
I left them at work because I'm gonna start having flowers in my office every week because they just really just brighten up the place. But I went to work Wednesday, Thursday we were out, went to work Friday, and now it started snowing. So today is Monday. It started snowing yesterday,
Wow.
and it's sticking. I mean, it looks like drift. You can't see the streets. You can't. It's but the
No.
kids are having a good time because they had the little slide things, and they've been coming by our house because we have a hill, so they've been going down the hill. I'm seeing the four-wheelers come out, so the young people are having a good time.
I'm sure, yes.
But getting back to marriage, marriage is a wonderful thing, and marriage is, I tell everybody that I coach, marriage is what your expectations, you have to put them out there when you're dating. And my husband and I, we were both older. I was getting ready to turn 50. He was getting ready to turn 60 when we got married. So we had an idea of who we were and what type of marriage we wanted. So we just put our cards on the table. We told each other what we liked, what we didn't like. I felt as a woman, as an independent woman, you know, being self-sufficient for a number of years, I know how to take care of myself. So it was just things that were deal breakers, and there were things that I really wanted. We were just truthful with each other, and a lot of women. My husband even told me this. He said a lot of women pretend certain things to get the man, but then after they get married, that's really not truthful, and the man will find out, and usually the relationship will go down the hill. But my husband and I, we were very truthful, very honest with each other. But the great thing about it, me being a Christian woman, him being a Christian man, we knew we had a chemistry, and we knew that we had the same type of idea for what we wanted our life to be. So we were truly equally yoked. And that is so important, because you have to find, well, really, the man has to find you. So for the women who are out there chasing the men, stop it now. That's not how it works. It's a man that findeth a good thing. So let
Yes.
him find
That.
you, because men like to hunt. And if you are hunting them, everything is backwards, and it's not gonna work. So once we really communicated with each other, and I'm gonna say that's the number one thing, you got to be able to talk to each other. And sometimes there's gonna be some things that's hard to talk about, but you got to start with, it's something I want to talk to you about. Now I want you to have an open mind. I want safe harbor.
Yes.
So I don't want you to get upset, but this is how I'm feeling about this particular situation. And usually, if you come that way, they're like, okay, so what is it? And then if it's something that you two do not agree with, you have to be patient, because, like they say, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You got to know, okay, if this is a good man, and this right here, we're not agreeing with, sometimes it just takes a little time
Mhm.
for things to finally work its way out where everybody will be happy.
Sure, sure. Yeah, those are some amazing pointers. You said something really interesting. You mentioned how in the beginning how important it is to really be honest with each other. And I think we're in that when women and when everyone's in that courtship kind of time, everyone wants to put their best foot forward, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we tend to show the very best of ourselves. I
Mm-hmm.
was even watching uh last night before on Netflix. It's called Dancing with the Birds. It was like a 45-minute documentary, and I love birds.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a show on how different types of birds, especially birds of paradise, how they court
Oh.
their mates. Oh my goodness. I was laughing throughout the entire time because when I see these animals, I think about the thoughts of God. Like, God, what were you thinking when you created this gorgeous creature, and how each and every one of them, they all have a different type of dance, and they all have this different way of calling their mates. Some of them dance, and then they put the music, of course. One of them had the tango, and another one had this jazz music. They like every bird had a different song that the people in the documentary would put and it worked so perfect. And I was like, wow, they did that so great. They pick up exactly what that bird is trying to. And so here's the female just watching the dance of this mate and trying to see which one he's gonna pick, and they have to put their best stance forward, and she has to be positioned, for example, up on high on a tree limb, and him in the bottom, because his colors, when his wings would spread this way, all the colors from the top, you would see just this beautiful array of colors based on the dance that he was doing.
Oh,
Just
wow.
such a phenomenal thing. And I said, oh my goodness, this is so peculiar. And how often, you know, when we're in this dance of coming into a relationship, we always put our best foot forward. We want the other person to see the very best side of us, which, you know, it's a tricky thing,
It
because
really is.
how do you, yes, put your best foot forward, but also in a way that it's authentic and genuine, that's not the fake version of you, like you said.
Exactly.
And, you know, I believe that when we decide to come into marriage, we've got to, you know, yes, there's a process that we go through once we're already in there, and there's going to be growth, and we've obviously never will arrive, right? Until,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, we go to heaven. But there's a process that happens prior to marriage that I feel like as women, we need to really um, learn about who we are, why we are the way that we are, and why we expect the things that we expect. And, you know, my husband and I were having a conversation yesterday and talking about why it's so important to be healed. Why is it important for a woman to be healed, a man to be healed prior to entering into this covenant relationship that we, before God, we promise to love each other in sickness and in health, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we come into this relationship sick, you know, we will also, I mean, how do we expect to have a healthy relationship when we come into the relationship sick? Sick in our heart with unforgiveness that's harbored, things from the past, betrayals, you know, past marriages, divorces. Like, I was a two-time divorcee when I came, you know, together with the love of my life that I have now by the grace of God. But married twice and divorced twice. I mean, I went through terrible relationships, and I definitely did not know how to pick, which is how my testimony came along. I said, okay, God, obviously I have no idea what I'm doing. And you know, just give me the man that you have for me, whoever that is. Like, just give me a man of God that loves you, and, you know, just give me what you have for me. So, you know, first of all, we pray our marriage in, we pray our spouse in. And I think about the Proverbs 31 woman, right? She is like the quintessential wife of the Bible, right? She is the wife that knows how to keep it all in balance. Her children call her blessed. Her husband, you know, praises her, and all of these amazing things. And so, you know, it's so important for women to just really know who they are. And it doesn't mean that you're losing your independence, right? It doesn't
Right.
mean that you're losing who you are. You just got to get to know yourself, and and be sure and confident of that.
Something you said about you have to be healed. That is so important because we mirror who we are.
Mm,
If you are toe up from the flow up and you got a lot of issues, that's what you're going to draw to you.
absolutely.
Like
That's good.
the law of attraction.
That's good.
If you just always, if you don't do the work to heal yourself, and you always going to be complaining, oh, it ain't no good men around, uh, these men don't have any money, these men don't know how to take care of no woman. If that's what you are saying, that's what you are going to be attracted.
Absolutely.
And I knew, once I got divorced, I went through a divorce, and I did the work on healing myself.
Mm,
And like you said earlier, I had to get to know, who am I really?
yes.
What do I really want? Did I want to get married again? And I did want to get married again, but I knew the marriage that I wanted this time, I knew it had to be different than the marriage I had before.
Yeah.
I knew that it was a certain kind of man for me to be the certain kind of woman that I needed to be. Because in the past, when I was married, my husband couldn't handle the independent corporate woman,
Mm,
the when I ran for office, he couldn't handle that. When he came to me one day after I was running for office, and he said, when this is over, he said, I want to get a divorce. And I'm like, what? Now, mind you, we
Oh,
didn't have a bad marriage. I said, well, what is the problem? He said, I want a blue collar wife. I said, a blue collar wife? I said, what do you mean? Now, these are his words, a blue collar wife. I said, well, what is a blue collar wife? He said, I want someone who just go to work on their job and they come home and that's all they do. I said, well, that wasn't who I was. So when I first met him, I was always going and doing and being a part of different galas and social events, and he would go with me. But I asked him, I said, well, you would go with me to these events. He said, yeah. But he said, I figured after a couple of years, you would get tired of that and you wouldn't want to do it anymore.
wow.
I was being authentic.
Yeah.
He was not being authentic. He knew I was a good person and he wanted to be with me, but he could not encompass all that he knew I was going to be in the world. And that's why he told me that he needed a blue collar wife, which I have nothing wrong with blue collar wives, but that's just not who I was.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, this is so good. This is so good, Arnessa. When we think of the independent woman, we also let's look at the man for a second, because you mentioned, um, you can only control what you say, but you can't control how authentic the other person is, right?
Right.
And so I think when a lot of women are trying to find their spouses or trying to find their Boaz, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like, how do you find the real deal, right? Like, how do you know that the person is being authentic? How do you know that this person is really who they say they are? Because that can sometimes be tough. And how do you know that they're not going to try and change you later on in the future?
Yes.
Right. And I think when you mentioned communication earlier on, I believe that's an incredible component of this, and learning how to communicate. The book of Proverbs is one of my favorite books in the Bible because it's all wisdom, and
Always.
it talks
Yes.
about the prudent wife. It talks about the woman who really knows how to communicate and knows how to speak, and understands how her language affects people,
Mm-hmm.
how her language can affect the people around her. And when we truly dig and dive deep into this book, we realize, look, sometimes we don't express ourselves the way that we really should.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes our language can be a little tough. As an
Mm-hmm.
independent woman, I
Mm-hmm.
I grew up
Mm-hmm.
in the Bronx, Arnessa. I'm a Bronx girl. There was nothing pretty or poised about the Bronx.
Okay.
And I had to learn that my language would affect the kind of job that I would get, the
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
friends that I would have, the relationships, the romantic relationships that I would have. And I begun to understood that culture and my language played an incredible part in what I wanted for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And so fortunately I had the opportunity. My mom sent me away to Ecuador, and I was able to be immersed in another culture and really find like my Hispanic heritage there. And so that helped me to understand myself in many
Mm-hmm.
ways. But I also had to pivot because there were also a lot of like if you've heard, like in the Hispanic culture, there's a lot of like machista men, like macho
Uh-huh.
men, right? That
Mm-hmm.
are like,
Mm-hmm.
woman goes in the home and the
Mm-hmm.
man stays, goes out to work, but the woman's job is only in the kitchen and all this stuff.
They raise the
And
kids.
exactly. And so there was that kind of mentality. And it was just, I learned that based on where you are and how you grow up, then that's the way that you're going to think. And I said, oh my
Right.
goodness. So if people, listening to us today find themselves in a situation where, look, this is how I was brought up, right? We don't have control over how that happened. But I guess our desire to learn differently and really want to
Right.
become someone different, then we begin to connect with different people and learn different cultures and different languages, because guess what? Everything that we do is about how we communicate with others, and even our friendships aren't necessarily going to be the same culture as us, right? So we've got to learn how communication affects.
That's why even a young Black girl from the South, I would, every kind of event that I wanted to be a part of, Model UN and Beta Club, anybody that was going, taking trips, I was going to be in that club because that was giving me exposure. I was in pageants. I knew I was not going to win those pageants, but I was in there. I was learning how to be poised, how to stand, how to interview, how you should speak, how you should walk. I mean, all of this, I'm like a self-made person. I know God made me, and I know I'm an heiress of God. But then in the world, I know I have to be able to maneuver and go in and out. So if you aren't in that kind of environment, because in our environment, it was a Black community. When we moved back to Arkansas, now prior to that, it was military. In the military, I learned a lot about, because it was different people, but I had always been that girl that was going to be reading, and I was looking at the fashion magazines. I like the way they wear their hair. I like this, the way they dress. You have to, going back to my book, you have to decide who you are and who you want to be, and you got to create that. I believe you can create the life you want.
That's so good, Arnessa. And, these are really great tips, for women who aren't waiting, that really desire a marriage. And waiting doesn't mean that you're just static, not
Mm-mm.
doing anything while you wait. On the contrary, waiting is meant to be a period that you're preparing, so maybe if you start looking at some clubs in there. I mean, I know right now, I'm not talking about nightclubs, right? We're talking about, groups of
Organiz-
people,
yes.
organizations that, you know, help you think greater outside of the
Yes.
circle that you're used to. I mean, I know with this pandemic, it's a little harder to do what we've kind of done before, but it's virtual. Now it's at the tip of our fingers that you could pretty much go into any group and, up level your life, up level your thinking, get out of the box, reinvent yourself, reset your life. And it's just a matter of knowing what you desire and knowing like what you want it to look like. If you have a vision of what you want your man to look like, if you want him to be intelligent, if you want him to be successful and someone that has goals and dreams and aspirations, right? Then you're going to be around people who think that way, because how do you expect to get that level of man and you're nowhere near that level of thinking, right? So it's all about preparation. So guess what? Because that man is going to want the same thing. He is looking for the type of wife who is well versed, a woman who is intelligent, a woman who is independent, not to mean that she is, independence doesn't mean harsh.
Right.
Independent means a woman who knows herself, who is very well able and capable to take care of both home and work and business and balance and just understand herself in a way that, she can manage on her own, but she wants a husband to support her and encourage her. But she knows that man is not the end all. She understands that God is her source, that
Mm-hmm.
God has someone special placed in her life
Yes.
so that he is can walk alongside her and both of them co-create the life that they have been destined to live. So,
L- Let me let me
this
let me let me add something to that. When my husband and I first got back together, well, we knew each other from church, and then I moved away after I went through a divorce, and then when I came back to town, he saw me riding down the freeway because my name was on the back of my license plate, and he called me. But fast forward until when we started dating, one day we were talking. He says, "I really like how you are." He said, "You have your own thing going." He said, "And you don't have to depend on me for your happiness." And I thought about, I
wow.
said, "Of course
What a
not."
statement. What a statement.
I said, I'm gonna be happy with you or without you. He said, but so many women, because we were talking about getting married, and he said so many women depend on the man to make them happy. I said, that is a large undertaking for me to put my happiness. You're gonna have to provide me my happiness. I'm like, oh, I wouldn't do that. He said, Arnessa, he says, a lot of people do that. Because, my husband, he does marriage counseling. That's part of his job as a minister. And I'm like, no, I would never put that responsibility on you. I am independent, but I'm open to be married where I know that my husband is the head of the household. I don't mind saying that. My husband is the head of the household. He gonna make sure everything happen in this home.
Yes.
But he gives me we talk about things, like, where we want to live or what we want to do to the house. Like right now we bought an older home and we're fixing it up because we love the neighborhood. But women do not depend on a man to make you happy. Because one of the things I tell my husband, we laugh now, we've been married 12 years, it'll be 13 in January. And I said, if I pass before you, I know you're married again. I said, but if you pass before me, I'm not married again. This is my last hurrah. I'm gonna be the best wife I could possibly be, but I'm to the point in my life where Jesus will be my next husband. I mean, it's just I've been married. I love being married to Larry Bennett. But if anything happened to Larry Bennett, mm-mm, I'll just be doing my projects and my church stuff and my coaching and the job that I have now. But I won't marry again. Now I might have a friend, somebody to go to dinner with, but I won't get married again.
Wow, that's so good. And in the same way that we may expect, or that women out there may expect the happiness from a man, is the same way that their sadness will be. It's like everything, it'll kind of put the blame on someone when you are unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't allow for personal responsibility to be taken when you have someone to blame. So, that creates a very, you know, unhealthy atmosphere in your home,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
When you don't have the type of freedom to be who you have been created to be,
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult. It's very challenging. And so, yes, from the very beginning, be authentic. And you won't know how to be authentic until you know who you are.
Yes.
That's where authenticity comes from, is from
Yes.
self-awareness, is doing personal work. I've had the privilege of doing personal work. I've had people around me since I was a young girl. Personal, that personal self-development is always something that I really just love to do on
Me
my own.
too.
And
I
yeah,
always have loved it.
yeah, and I always had, older, my friends were always older than me. They always carried me in several years, and it's been with the people that I've been the most comfortable with.
Mhm.
And at age 20, one of my best friends was in her 30s. And she was my best friend, but she was a mentor to me as well.
Mhm.
She taught me so much about personal development, and she loved personal. And so I gleaned from her so much, and it taught me how to love learning about me and learning about boundaries and gaining
Mhm.
wisdom. And that just carried me through the rest of my life. And so I've gone to seminars, in my early 20s. She invited me to go to one of these personal development seminars. It was like a week
Mhm.
long in New York. And I didn't know God back then. Um, but God used it to mold me in a way that, I mean, even yesterday I was thanking God for that week, because it changed me. It changed me in a way that was so deep, that changed the course of the rest of my
Oh,
life. Really,
wow.
it was profound, and it was healing. And it's you just kind of find things that will take you to the next level of thinking and really desiring. Whatever you desire, you can find. Us women, when we know what we want, we find a way to get it. And so if
Yes.
any woman out there is really searching for more, we're
Mhm.
both coaches. And if you're interested in just learning to find a little bit more about yourself, or develop some self-awareness, I have a program right now, um, called Design Your Desires, where it helps you kind of, it's a mold for the
Mhm.
different areas of your life, and really helps you figure out, okay, how do I want this area of my life to look like?
Mhm.
And find someone, just someone that you could connect with, that will help you, that will walk alongside of you, that will help you think outside your box, even maybe outside your culture or what you were born into.
That is so important. And marriage is a wonderful thing when you're with the right person. One
Absolutely.
of the another thing that I like is my husband celebrates who I am. I
Mm,
can meet I'm a big personality. My husband loves it. The things that I do, the organizations that I'm
love
in,
I love
the
that.
places that I go, he's like, he right there, he going,
I
girl, you
love
can do
that.
this. I mean, where in the past I was with people who were intimidated
Mm,
by my awards or accolades, well, don't get the big head, you know. Now anybody can do that. Okay, if anybody can do that, where are they? But that was a way. I realized that was a way that they were trying to. They weren't used to someone getting this kind of exposure. So here I am with a man who he's like, yeah, baby, do it, go girl, go
love
for it.
that. I love that. I love that.
And when you have someone like that, it's no telling what you could do
That right there.
because you got that
Yes.
support.
Yes. That is everything. My husband, I hear you. My husband is the same way, Arnessa. And he always tells me, I want you to be greater than I ever was. I want you to shine brighter than I ever did. Because my husband has ministerial experience, business experience. I mean, he's done a lot in his life. And really, it's almost like he helped pave the way. And when you have a man that knows who he is and is confident in his God-given
Hmm.
gift and talent, he has no problem seeing the light in you, right? A
Yes,
man who has light has no problem seeing somebody else's light.
no
And
problem.
this is a beautiful thing. And so I feel like I can reach the stars anytime. I feel
Yes,
like I can do anything because of this man that God has placed in my life
right.
that, says, do it all.
He's not
You can,
insecure with
not at
your
all.
light.
Not at all. The total contrary. He gets excited, the moment that things happen in my life, and he is my greatest cheerleader and my greatest supporter, and truly my very best friend, the one that I know has the very best intention in life more than anybody on this planet after God. That is my best friend and everything. So,
And that's important because that helps elevate you in
yes,
more ways than one. When okay, I'm gonna do this because I know I got somebody cheering me on, because
yes,
it's a lot of women, they don't have that. They I have coached so many women who say they feel like their husband thinks that they're in competition with them, and they
mm,
can't really do like they want to do, or they won't do what God is guiding them to do because of the insecurity of the husband. And I'm like,
yeah,
I said, well, that's why it's important to be equally yoked. We've talked about this on
absolutely,
other shows. When you are equally yoked, you're believing in the same thing,
sure.
and that is so important.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's worth the wait, wouldn't you say? Isn't it worth
Yes,
it? Like if you can wait just a little while and not settle and not say,
or
well, this is good enough. Like if you believe that if you believe that you're okay, then you'll settle. When you know that you're fearfully and wonderfully made, then you know you deserve the very best. Not
yes,
only in the things around you, but also in the people around you. And so you're gonna want the very best mate. You're gonna want
yes.
what God has for you and not willing to settle for the first or second or third guy that comes along with okay goals and okay, ideas. No, you want spectacular. You want, the spectacular love, and you want the
Mm-hmm.
oohing, and you want, my husband would roll out the red carpet for me every time I walked if he could.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when you're treated that way, you know, life just cannot get any sweeter. Life is joyful. Life is peaceful. I mean, what else can you possibly ask for when you have the very best person you can have in a spouse that changes your life? And it's absolutely worth the wait.
But you gotta know it before you see it.
Mm,
That's why it's important for you to do, like I did a vision board
yes.
of the qualities that I wanted. And I like to dance. I like to get dressed up. I just was really just detailed. And when my husband and I got married and we moved, he saw my vision board, and he was even saying, "Hey, this look like our house." I said, "I know." He said, "Well, when did you do this board?" I said, "I did this board like over a year ago before I even
Wow.
thought anything about you." And
Wow.
he said, "These things really work." And the qualities that he has was on that board. But when it comes to marriage, when we were dating, usually we would go out to a restaurant or something, and I could listen to what he was saying, and I could tell if this was going to be my husband, because I knew with God and myself, just visualizing and thinking about the qualities, I knew it because the things that he was saying were some of the things that were on my list. And the
Mm,
things that we would do and how I would feel were like the things that I had dreamed about. Because I said, "You're like my dream man." He's like, "What? Are you dreaming?" I said, "Yeah," because in my mind
yeah.
of how I was going to be treated and the things I was going to do, I say, you are
Wow.
that person."
It's beautiful.
And one other thing I'm gonna say, it could be a person. How he is with one person, one woman, doesn't mean he's gonna be the same with another woman.
Mm,
I've
that's
had several women
so
who
good.
have said, I've been dating this guy for 4 or 5 years, and then 6 months later he marries this girl
Mm,
because she was the woman that was in his mind of the dream woman.
wow.
So don't get caught up dating no guy for no 5 years.
So
It
good.
don't take that long to know if you the one or not, especially with men. Men
Absolutely.
know sooner than women.
Yes. Yes. That is so great that my husband and I had a similar experience when we just started, and he asked me, what's the type of man you're looking for? And at that point we weren't even, thinking about, marriage or anything like that, but I listed the qualities and he said, that's me.
Look no
You
further.
just you just described me in every detail. I said, well, amen to that. It's amazing. It's amazing when we have a clear vision of, what God has for us and who God has created us to be. We're able to find that mate because we can see in someone else what is already inside of us. And that becomes incredibly important. That's why when you mention equally yoked, like that's what that is. You recognize in your mate parts of even yourself, of who you are.
Yes,
I wanted a man of God. Why? Because I was a woman of God,
yes,
right? I wanted an intelligent man. Why? Because I was an intelligent woman. Like
yes,
I wanted someone who would match, my similar ways of seeing the world, and that way we can do life together. And it becomes just so much more blissful. And then you learn how to communicate along the way. They could
mhm,
be your perfect match and you could be equally yoked. However,
yeah.
however, let me tell you, communication in this household isn't always the easiest thing.
No, not with,
It,
because men and
it
women are so different.
work. Absolutely. Tell me about it. The female brain and the male brain, like, I don't know. I think that's the biggest conversation. Up to yesterday, my husband and I were having this conversation. It's like you think this one way and they're like on a whole nother. I'm like, so it's not always that you think the opposite. You just think in different ways. You could be talking about the same exact thing, and the
Yes,
perspective that they have is completely different than the one you
different,
have. But then
totally different.
here's the thing, power of agreement. It doesn't mean that you're going to agree necessarily in the way that he does things, but you come to an agreement on
Yes,
how the way things are going to be done, or you compromise, right? Okay, you're going to
yes,
do it this way, I'm going to do it this way. And we come together and we agree on how we're going to do something.
right.
And that takes time. Even the best relationship, even the match made in heaven, takes time and love,
Yes,
lots and lots of love and lots of patience and trust, all
yes,
of things which are built.
mhm,
These things create a really lasting foundation in a marriage, right? And
exactly.
so you begin it's like building a house, brick over brick over brick, and the
Yeah,
house becomes stronger as you build it
yeah,
with the right materials, because you begin to put straw in there, well, it's not going to be, any wind can just blow it away.
right,
So these are the foundations of a household. Wise women build, right? Like this is
right.
another program I'm currently working on. Sneak peek. It's how women build a house, right? How the wisdom of God will help us to build a house, how the book of Proverbs teaches us. And it's really the ingredient for a lasting marriage. And
Mm.
this is what we want to share with all of our viewers and people who are watching us and following us. We appreciate you. Anything else, Arnessa, that you wanted to add to this?
Well, I just want one other thing. I had when I was dating, I had it down to a science. When I go to dinner with someone, Like, okay, so they had to know how to bless the food, because if they couldn't bless the food, they couldn't bless me. So that was one thing. And
Good.
then going back to that conversation, if you are out with someone and they're saying stuff that doesn't agree with who you are, let that be the last date, because they're not the one. Don't waste your time. I guess that's what I want to say.
I love
Don't
that.
waste your time on guys who are not the one,
Mhm.
because it's going to be nothing but chaos and confusion and headache. If they're not the one, it's all right to be by yourself. I had come to a agreement with myself. I would stay home, eat popcorn, and look at a movie instead of being out with someone who was not equally yoked or was not saying the things that I needed for my husband to be saying.
Sure, sure. And I think what often makes women just keep making those choices, desperation.
Oh, yeah.
That desperate need, which is why we talked about healing, right? This is another reason why healing becomes important. When you're not healed, you're willing to go on that next date, knowing in your heart, you know that you're wasting your time, but why are you willing to settle? Because there's a desperation in you. There's a part of you that still has not been healed, that it's still needing something from someone that you have not yet taken personal responsibility for. And it
Exactly.
shows up making exactly those choices that
Hmm.
you're talking about. And so we can't move forward. When we
Right.
realize our time is valuable as women, that second date is a waste of my time,
Right.
of my precious time. But you got to know who you are. You've got to know that you're precious and your time is
Yes.
precious. And from that comes the good decisions. From that
Right.
comes then, when you focus on the right things, everything else just has to fall off. Your standard of
Yes.
living just becomes a certain way when you think a certain way. And that's, you know, that's so key. That is so key. Absolutely.
You gotta know who you are, because you gotta know the right kind of man for you. And yeah, it might take a long time for him to find you, but when he find you, oh my goodness. My life in the last 12 years, my life has changed so much. I don't even look like that person I was before I was married, and I thought I had it going on. So when you got the right man in your life,
Yes.
you girl,
Preach
you
that.
just gonna
Preach
keep
that.
going up
Yes.
and up and up. And I mean, because people even they say, "Girl, you don't look like your age." I'm like, because I'm treated like a queen. When you treated good, you eating good, you living good. You don't
Absolutely.
have that stress that some them single women have. I don't have that stress.
Yes.
Life is good.
Amen, sister. Amen. That right there, that is so good. And women, us women, we're worth it.
Yes,
And
and
if
but they got to know that they're worth it, because a lot of
absolutely,
women don't know their worth.
that's it right there. That's it right there. That's so important. And and sometimes we've grown up around people who didn't value us. It
Yeah,
could be our own parents, it can be family members, friends, people who saw the worst in us and didn't help us along the way. Maybe there's been abuse, maybe there's been trauma,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's hard to think the right way when you've been taught to think the opposite, when you've
Right.
been around negative people who, instead of
Yes.
encouraging you, brought you down or criticized you, right? Like,
Exactly.
how do
Yes.
you go through life when you're criticized? And that's where that healing again comes in. But you got to
Right.
acknowledge it, right? You can't just go through life. You
Mm-mm.
won't be able to find that healing until you realize, wait a minute. It's a moment of truth that you sit down with yourself and say, okay, some stuff truly needs addressing. And that takes courage. Like,
Yeah.
how much courage does that take, to say, hey, listen, boo, you gotta fix some things. If
Yeah.
you really want to reach the next level, you gotta get real and say, I need help.
Yeah.
And sometimes those words for independent women Because listen, I was raised by a mother who was like, I don't need anyone's help. I am bad all by myself and I'm good. Now, granted, she's made it a long way. My mother's the toughest cookie that I know.
Mm-hmm.
However, I've come to learn that I've needed help in certain areas, me. And I've had to learn to find it. I've had to learn to find people around me who would support me
Mm-hmm.
and, the kind of people I can work. And I know, listen, I would not have gotten to where I am had it not been for people who helped me along the way. And an
Yes.
independent, strong woman recognizes her weaknesses
Yes.
and becomes strong because she knows who she is. And she is not afraid to say, I need help.
Yep.
It's not a bad thing.
Mm-mm.
It's not
No,
a
it
weak
really
thing.
is a queenly thing. The
It
queen
is
don't do everything. The
absolutely,
queen says,
absolutely.
I need you to do this for me. I need your
Yes,
help. That's what the queen says.
absolutely,
I
absolutely.
need
You know,
you.
Queen Esther, when she got to the palace, she was given 7 of the best maidens, right? She was given people around her to support her, to help
Yes.
her with her garments and with her meals and with her oils and with her cosmetics and all the wonderful things that she had to start doing in the
All
palace
the
when she got
wonderful
there, right?
things.
And
Yes.
yeah, and she got the best of everything, but not by herself, with
Not by
people
herself.
that God placed around her. And that goes back to our previous message segment. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch the last segment, right? Mentors, the importance of mentors in your life and how to find them and how to keep them and how to honor those
Mm-hmm.
people around you and how to not overlook. If God is saying, hey,
Right.
you need this person that's going to help you and help you get to the next level, listen, don't just put them to the side because you're like, well, I can't, I don't want people to know.
Oh, I don't want to bother them.
Yes,
That's
thank you.
insecurity. That's
Thank
insecurity.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you. That is one of the biggest things that I hear. Thank you. That is that right there. And, you know, we are in no time to waste. If we've learned anything about this past year,
Woo,
is that
girl.
any barrier and hindrance that has gotten in our way, this is the time to get rid of it if we want to start
Yes.
doing something with our life. Like,
Live your life. It's been so many people in my life and even people outside my life that I just know of that have passed in the last 12
oh
months.
God, yes.
So I'm living my life every day to the
Amen.
fullest
Amen.
because tomorrow is not promised.
Wow. Wow. That's good. That's so good. And we just want to encourage women out there that, have had to grow up independent, that maybe you've been a single mom that's had to raise 3 kids, 4 kids, and you didn't have support around you. Maybe you had to grow up a tough cookie because of the place that you grew up in.
Mm.
Maybe you've had some challenges in life that you've had to overcome and have been forced to be independent. But you know what? There comes a time where you know that you need help, you need support, and independent is not harsh, right? Independent is not negative. Independence, there is strength and there is beauty and there is wisdom in it. And there's no shame in learning how to gain independence and become independent the right way.
And it's nothing wrong with reinventing yourself.
Mm.
And even as a even as a married woman, I'm a married woman that's a Christian, that's an independent woman. I know how to, and being an independent woman, it's not like I don't need a man type of thing. I know how to do things. I can do things, make decisions on my own if I need to. And that's what a lot of women are not used to, making decisions. Even in the workforce, I'm gonna make a decision. I don't have a problem. If it's wrong, it's wrong. We just have to regroup and figure out another way. But I know how to make decisions, and that's important in life.
Mhm. Amen. Amen. Absolutely. Well, you know, this has been an incredible conversation, Arnessa. Thank you for
Yes,
sharing. And, you know, I hope that women out there will find encouragement and
yes.
find hope and find some good word, and that, you know, everyone may be blessed. And, you know, we hope to just continue sharing with you and all of these amazing topics. If you haven't yet subscribed to our channels, make sure you do. We love you and can't wait to see you again. Have a blessed one.
Love you.
Bye.
Happy Valentine's.